Hi, I'm Amy Pack. Every once in a while I get asked the question, how do I use the history studies from Homeschool in the Woods? I mean, there's a lot of components to them, especially the project passports and time travelers. The project passports have 50 or more projects to them. And how's it organized, or what do I have to do? So today I'm going to take you step by step through how to use a project passport. Now, that's our world history study. We do have other studies as well. Our time travelers are the American history studies. And they too contain text and a lot of projects to them, different kinds. We also have lab packs. Now that is for the person who just wants to do a lab book, and those contain text for each lesson as well. We have activity packs. Those are lab books that are meant to accompany another study or launch research of your own. Now, history studies are flexible. Just because they have a lot of projects does not mean that you need to do them all. We wanted to include variety for your children. So you're going to want to go through and pick and choose what really speaks to you. I'm sometimes also surprised that people don't realize that there's a menu on there within the file. And that's there to organize all the lessons with the text that they would need, the project directions they would need, and the masters that they would need. And I'll be showing you that as we get to the breakdown. Project passports also have a theme. In this case, your child's visiting another era of time as a traveler. So there's going to be travel agency type lingo like itineraries and guidebooks and souvenirs and things like that. So you'll be seeing that a lot as we go through the menu. Lessons are considered stops, meaning that if you made a stop somewhere on your trip, it might be a quick one, or you might want to linger for a while. Same with these. You might find a history lesson that's very quick to do and you move right on to the next one. Or you might either have a lot of interest in that topic and want to pursue it further, or want to take on more of the projects that are in that one. It's totally fine. It's up to you as to how long you want to take with it. Now, the text is the guidebook, and the project directions are all the itinerary, and I'll be pointing that out to you as well as we go. Now, once you've learned how to use one of these, it's the same for all the project passports. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. First thing you're going to want to do is open the file that's on your desktop. And you're going to see the PP stands for Project Passport. AE, in this case, stands for Ancient Egypt. If it was Ancient Greece, it's going to be AG, etc. So open that up, and don't worry about the folders that are in here, like that contain images and such. Go directly to the start.htm and double click on it. And this is going to open the menu in your browser. This is what the menu looks like. Now there's opening paragraphs, but below that are important documents that you're going to want to read. The introduction shares basically what I've told you so far, how the study is based on a traveler visiting another era of time. The travel tips. Now these share handy ideas and helps to make your crafting easier. It contains general items that are good to have on hand. You can see them listed right here, such as paper, cardstock in different colors, double-sided sticky tape, colored pencils, binders, things like that. Now, other more unique items are going to be needed periodically should you choose to do the projects that call for them, like glitter or clay or spray paint, shoe boxes, fabrics, things you might not naturally have on hand, but would need to gather for those specific projects. Now, the travel tips also have a key of codes. That is right down here. And what these do is you're going to see these in each stop. These codes tell you if that itinerary will be including a project for the lap book. That's usually an LB, timeline. The timeline is called Snapshot Moments in History, and that's going to be a little camera there. Postcards have this little stamp, and things like that. You're going to get used to those as you go through it. Okay, it also gives you an overview of how the binders will be prepared for both the teacher and the student, and I'll show you more on that shortly. Okay, so the next thing is the quick stop itinerary. Now, what this does is give you a simple overview of what projects are going to be utilized in each of the stops. It contains the icons that I was showing you a little bit ago so that you can see which stops include which projects that are going to be continued. Some of these projects are going to be a continual thing to do throughout the entire study, like adding to the timeline, adding in postcards to the postcard rack, or adding articles or advertisements to the newspaper. Now, additional resources. Okay, these were born out of the requests for additional reading suggestions. Now, the project passports have plenty of text, though, to accompany each stop. But however, we understand that sometimes you might want to assign additional reading material, such as historical fiction, or just more on a particular topic. Also suggested are audio, video, and music. The music can be a fun way to set the atmosphere when you're working on projects or even when you're, say, cooking some of the cultural foods together in the kitchen. Now below there, we've got the acknowledgments and options for teacher's binders covers. Now this is for the teacher's materials. I'll show you here. You know, you have a choice of color or black and white, and that's for, you know, again, the teacher's binder, which would hold text and the directions, project directions. Below here we have gold buttons. Those ones are going to jump to the stops. And periodically down the menu, because this is one continual menu, there can be a jump to top button as well, just to help you avoid scrolling so much. Okay, the guidebook text and the travel itinerary for each stop is right below the bar. You can either read the text right from the screen, I'm going to click on there, or print it, or keep it in your guidebook. There's often projects that do refer back to the text that you've read, so you may want to have it handy for your child to be able to read from as well. Now the travel itinerary, this is your go-to for all projects for that stop. It includes directions for new projects as well as ones you're going to be adding to continuously, but I'll show you how that works soon. Now, the first stop, by the way, is always going to be jam-packed. There's several projects in stop 1 that we have you print entirely and prepare first. We do this as these projects are going to be added to at many stops, and all you have to do is pull it out and it's ready to go. So by preparing the basic components for a handful of projects, it's going to save you loads of time in the future. Examples of this are the snapshot moments in history. Let me scroll down to that really quick so you can see it. The postcard rack. And I'll be touching on some of these things very shortly here, by the way. You're going to be placing timeline figures throughout many of the stops, and for the postcards, they're grouped together actually to minimize printing, but they're going to be kind of assigned over scattered stops. So now in ancient Egypt, we don't begin the newspaper project until stop number 2 because it breaks up the prep work a little bit. But you may again want to have it prepared ahead of time before you even start the study. Like, you know, any ongoing project, if it's assembled at the beginning, then the child would be adding articles and advertisements at various stops where they're called out. Now, age maturity and each child's ability to focus is going to most likely play a part in how much authority you give them over each project. You know your child's burnout point and may want to gauge how much you prepare according to how much your child can handle. You may find that some projects, such as the snapshot timeline, are just plain easier for you to put together ahead of time, and that way your child can just dive in when you're ready to begin the project. Now, although not technically part of stop 1, we begin with the passport and the luggage folder. So here's everything for the passport, the directions, the list of supplies, and the luggage folder itself here. Now, the good news is that once you've made these, however, you're not going to need to do them again because they're used in every project passport afterwards as well. Here's a photo. Let me go back and show you a photo of what they look like. Okay, so there's your luggage folder. It's basically a file folder that's been cut to a certain size and has the pockets in it. Every time you pop a photo, by the way, it does, or click on one, it pops a new window. This is the inside with the travelogue. I don't remember what that looks like, and I'll be addressing that at the very end. They have an identification tag that they're going to be putting their name and stuff on. Each child will have their own, and of course the passport that they'll fill in. Okay. Now, each project, let me go ahead and get back to that itinerary. So each project starts with a supplies list, and then printable masters assigned to that stop will be linked within the stop itself. So, for example, here's preparing the passport. You've got your list of supplies here, and then you have directions following. Now let's take a look at the way that the itinerary calls out supplies for project. The masters are labeled with a letter and 2 numbers, and the letter is either M for master or TK for teacher's key. The first number represents the stop that it's from. So in this case, M1 is stop 1, and then 1, this is the first master being used. Now we also use M12 okay, to print off on for this particular project. Now the supplies generally start with the masters that you're going to need to print. It tells you if you need to print it on paper, cardstock, and the color of it. Sometimes you're going to need to print on the back side of the paper, and you just need to know how your printer works for direction of the paper. We've had at least 5 printers along the way, and I still don't know which direction to go with them. We have several going sometimes at one time, so I've always got to run a test print just to remind me before I get going. So next will be the materials you need, or at least the suggestions of them. So let's take a look down here. When it comes to the luggage folder, you've got not just your masters here, but a 3-pronged folder, scissors, string, pencil, hole punch. Lamination film is optional. Now, what we do recommend is that you take a look at those projects, what supplies are needed, because you may not want to use the optional ones, or you may. I mean, it's that way you can decide ahead of time and see what you really need together. So finally, you're ready to roll. You're just going to follow the directions provided. There's often images and a photo. Like I mentioned, a lot of these have images to help you out and a photo on the main menu to visualize it as well. And as you can see, stop 1 is very full, but they won't all be like this. The passport and luggage are here, as well as the Scrapbook of Sights cover to get your child ready to go. And that's right up here. Let me show you this one. Where do I have it? Right here. So this is basically the child getting their 3-ring binder going. There's an image to print off for that. And what that's going to do is give them their own personal notebook cover. So with their name on it and everything. So now that's going to be where they're going to be storing their 3-hole projects, or 3-hole punch projects. I'm going to go back to the itinerary because I want to show you the snapshot moments in history timeline. Now really quickly, here's a picture of a page-to-page version. By the way, like I said, photos do pop up a whole new window for you. Here's an accordion fold. Now all the ones that I've done in the Project Passport have been the page-to-page, but if you really like this version, the accordion fold, all of our time travelers, American history studies, utilize the accordion version. But you can really do what you want, whichever you want, because they are both included in the Project Passports for layout. Now, let's go back to the itinerary itself to look at how that's done. Like I said, it's going to give you the 2 options here. Here is the page-to-page. Here is the accordion fold and how to put the pages together. You're basically going to, again, choose the way that you want to do it. Now, on the menu, you're going to find the lines to print for that. Here's the masters that are called out for that. You can see basically what they look like. The timeline figures are included on these pages. You're going to cut them out and then put the ones you don't need away until they're called out. The timeline also has scrapbook extras because it's really made to look like a photo scrapbook. So these are things like receipts that you might have gotten from a location, or admission tickets, or business cards and bookmarks and all kinds of things. And usually these coincide somewhere with the text throughout, or they tie in with other things. So the kids are kind of getting to see some of these more than once, and just redundancy is nice because it helps to drive some of these ideas home and lessons home. Okay, and also here we have teacher keys too. Here's the teacher keys for the timeline. If you want to see placement, how it'll look when it's done, it can be helpful for a child, especially if they want to write additional information in so that he can see the remaining space it'll have. You'll see that this stop also contains a mapping project here, mapping Upper and Lower Egypt. Now, if you look at the itinerary, it's going to tell you that this particular map is also going to be added to in future stops, not throughout the entire thing, but for a handful of them. So we recommend that you just file away the extra pages, just like with the timeline figures, and pull them out when they're called out. Okay, this also contains the postcard rack, and whoops, I'm going a little too far. Postcard rack, the postcard greetings. Now these are basically, these are going to fit into the scrapbook. They're 3-hole punch, and they're pockets that are going to have postcards from, various people to people or people groups or whatever. And the text is all provided for you, and the children would color them in. So this is, again, added to as time goes on. Now remember, not all these stops will have this much to do, and most of this work is because it needs preparation in stop 1. So once you're rolling into a study, you're just going to be adding to these in bite-sized pieces. We are on to stop 2. All right, now like you said, you can see that the bars all state what stop they are. Now, you're also going to notice that there are 3 icons here. Now, this is going to mean that this stop will include adding timeline figures to the snapshot moments. There's your camera. Postcard greetings. In this case, for the scrapbook of sites, it happens to be you're going to be adding more to the map of Upper Lower Egypt. The icons on the menu are exceptionally helpful, especially if you're limiting the projects to a chosen number of them. You can kind of scan down the menu and find the projects that will go either into the scrapbook of sites or into a timeline or newspaper. If you're working on the lap book that's represented by an LB, you can jump to those. So, all right. Now this is where we begin the newspaper, by the way. Again, once this is put together, you're going to find that it's ready to go for your child to add brief articles and creative advertisements. Now, I get a lot of emails from families sharing how much they love this fun way of adding creative writing to their study. Now, this stop also contains a fun aspect that, well, actually, I will get to that in just a second. Let me show you how the newspaper looks. So, and as you can see, it's got a lot of pages to it, so it's nice to have that all printed off and ready to go. One of the things I want to really point out here too that's a lot of fun and speaks to our auditory learners is the dramatized audio. We have usually around 8 or so of them in each project passport, but this is where the student's going to be visiting people and places of the era. In this case, the first one takes you on a tour down the Nile River. Let me see if I can kind of jump to a spot here. So you can hear a little bit. We have a sample on our website as well.
How ingenious.
Look, is that them?
I believe it is. Look, everyone. The pyramids of Giza.
Okay.
Yes, the pyramid.
All right. Okay. So you get the idea anyway. It's just fun. It just provides some, much needed kind of way to listen to it in a way that paints a picture for them. So we're going to move on to stop 3 now. As you see, you've got your reading text, you've got your travel itinerary. Now here's where I want to show you the scrapbook of the souvenirs craft cards, that go into the scrapbook. Each project passport comes with 12 of them, and they're basically 3D projects that range anywhere from dress-up clothes to dioramas to forms of art. Anything unique that can't be contained in the scrapbook binder or a lap book. The cards contain all the supplies and directions, much like the itinerary, but in a way where you can keep them in the pocket in the binder. So this is going to be your page that gets 3-hole punched, and here's the pocket that goes on it, and then you're going to be printing these off as you go. In this case, for this particular stop, you have 2 souvenir craft cards, one for clothing mostly really accessories for a girl and accessories for a boy. Now, next we have a dining out guide here. That's a booklet of recipes that can be made at any time if you wish. This is going to be inserted in a pocket in the lap book, which you can see right here with the LB. You might want to spend an afternoon cooking a few dishes out of it or scatter them throughout the study, some of the recipes through there. You can even have a party at the end of your study that culminates with an Egyptian dinner. So, and then finally, wait a minute, I forgot. We have at the very end here, not very end, actually, we have a couple more. What did Egyptians wear? Now, this one, what I do want to show you, though, are the photos that go with this one, because I think it's a little bit more explanatory if you see them. This will, again, be 3-hole punched and go into the scrapbook of sites. And this has a pocket in it and different clothing pieces that you can put on the image itself. There's like little spots to slide them in and such. There's one for women too, so as you can see. And finally, now we get to the last project here in this stop, and it is making mud bricks. Now this is one that doesn't even have any masters to it. It's more like a science experiment. And all the directions will be in the itinerary. It's basically showing a comparison of bricks, one that would be made with and without straw. So the child gets to experience the difference between the two. So again, you're going to choose the projects that you wish to do according to the time you have allowed for the subject and the interest and age level of your child. This is also a great opportunity if you have a number of kids to have them work together. And you'll notice that now you're going to be adding to some existing projects and having options for new ones. You'll have scattered audio files to listen to as well. As you go down, here we have interview with an embalmer and several more. Visiting a temple school. It goes on like this. Now, once you get towards the end, you're going to encounter a file folder game. I'm pretty sure. And this one, it's in lesson 20 or in stop 24. Here it is. Yep. Okay. Now, we like to include a game, at least one game, but one game, at least a game with lots of question cards that are pulled from the information throughout the study. Let me go ahead and pull up that photo so you can see it a little better. It really beats taking tests. The child gets to play while they continue not just to see what information stuck, but really begin to cement that information in bite-sized pieces. Now, the thing to know about a game with question cards is that the child will most likely not remember all the detailed information, at least not right away. We recommend using a small portion of the cards and using them over and over until the information sticks. Then you can add more cards in as they're ready to receive the new information. Or if you've got a younger child, choose the cards that have the easier information on them, because the intention is not to frustrate the child because they can't remember details. It's more of a remedial way to lay down some of the things that they've learned in a concrete way. So it's really meant to be fun. Okay, now we get to stop number 25, the final stop. This is where we're going to wrap up the study and assemble the lap book and pull out that luggage folder from stop number 1. Now, like any travel agency, there's brochures about where you want to go. So what your child's going to be doing is creating a brochure that shares information about what the location had to offer. What would you include to share with another person who's never been there? What would they see and do? When completed, you're going to be putting that brochure in a luggage pocket, the luggage folder pocket. And when you're done with all the project passports, you'll have 5 brochures in there from all the different locations you've been to. Now, this is also where your child will begin to complete the travelogue pages. And let me go ahead and show you, if you remember that, we talked about this before. So here's your travelogue pages. And that's basically briefly writing about their favorite experiences from the study, like what did they enjoy the best, what did they expect before they started. It's kind of like a mini diary of their thoughts about what they learned. All right, now the assembly itself, you've got 2 ways to do it. The itinerary shares all your instructions. In fact, here you can also see there you can see how the sticker looks. This is when you're going to put your luggage sticker on as well, and your stamp and your passport. I forgot to mention that part. So assembling the lap book, you've got your instructions here, and it takes you through all of everything from folding the folder, putting in your pages, and then finally placing all the projects that go into that. Or another option for this is if you click on the photo button here, it takes you through on your browser, seeing all the pictures at a larger size. So, all right, we've made it to the end of the study. Now what? Okay, well, let me go ahead and show you. I'd love for you to see some of the projects that you're going to be doing. Okay, now I'd like to show you some of the projects that we talked about. Here's the luggage folder. This is the one that your children will be using throughout each of the studies. You've got your luggage stickers on the front, an ID tag, and on the inside, the travelogue pages that would be filled out at the end of each study. Of course, you've got the passport itself, and you're going to be putting the stamp in that goes with that particular study, and also the brochure that the child would have filled out in this case. And these all get added together too as they complete each study. So these all get stored into there. Now the next thing I want to show you is what the scrapbook of sights actually looks like. So this is the binder that they're going to be using. When you have a binder, if you can get one that has the pockets inside, this is really helpful because there are other projects that can fit in. Like in this case, the archaeological dig booklet. And then there's the newspaper will fit nicely in here. The file folder game actually can often fit in these pockets as well. This is the snapshot moments in history, the page by page version. And you can see how it looks like, little snapshot photos along with your little tchotchke mementos all through here. We've got a bookmark from somewhere. We've got some admission tickets, things like that. It just makes it a lot more fun. Okay, so, whoops, here we have, I did want to show you this one. This is what that Upper and Lower Egypt map would end up looking like. Sometimes they do fold out because they're bigger. I like to, include more area for the kids to work in. This is the postcard rack that they're going to be adding to. These are like little pockets of to hold the postcards as they go. Here's what the woman and man's clothing look like. And as you can see, they're three-dimensional pieces. They go into the pocket. Now this is the souvenirs and gifts pocket. This is going to be holding those souvenir cards. Now we talked about, I think I've got it right here. We talked about dressing the accessories and stuff for an Egyptian boy or girl. And here's the card that would go in. And here's an example of what that particular project would look like. At least this is the amulet from it. So just done with foam, crafting foam. And I have another project that's in here too. I'm going to be showing you towards the end here. Sometimes the games are flat, and so they can be 3-hole punched and put inside the binder as well. Now, this is just an example here of what would almost appear to be like a lapbook project that's been blown up to fit into the binder. This uses matchbook folds and stuff, but this way it can contain a lot more information than if you were going to put this into a lapbook. So that's basically, you're going to be adding to that several times. There's all kinds of different projects that would go in there. Another project that we talked about was the file folder game. Here's an example, taking the file folder, printing off the game board and coloring it in, putting it on. There's going to be markers of some sort that go with the games. There's going to be question cards. This is just a tiny, tiny amount. The stack is like this high normally. So, and in this case with Tomb Dash, there's actually audio that goes with that because it is timed. So that's that one. All right, now the lap book. This is what the lap book would end up looking like. You've got your file folder that's been folded a particular way. You've got pages on the inside that are going to be holding your lap book projects that you're working on all throughout the study. Interactive things too. Some of them are wheels and some of them have pop-ups and folds and all kinds of things. So it's like a portfolio when you're done with a lot of these projects. So here's your dining out guide. I want to point that one out too. So this is a whole menu booklet in here of items that, and each one of them comes with one of these. So you've got a little history behind the meals periodically as well and stuff too. So, all right. Now I mentioned the souvenir card for another project. This is the one I was talking about. This is where you're taking a shoebox and you're painting it to look like a sarcophagus so that you can have a spot to put your mummy. And here in this case, we have a printable piece for this, which includes the death mask and the amulet and the cartouche. So you're going to be printing off for this one, but then the rest of the instructions tell you how to make the mummy and what to do for your sarcophagus. Another example of using either a shoebox or a regular corrugated box of some sort are the dioramas. And this is the one that's used for ancient Greece. It's an Egyptian temple. The nice thing about dioramas like this is the kids really have to get into the nitty-gritty details about what it is that they're making. So it just helps to make that topic a little bit more interesting. Again, feed that desire to want to get to know more about these just tidbits of information about the era. And dioramas are just a really cool way to do that. In this case, it's the temple, but in ancient Greece, I believe we've got the agora, which is the marketplace. And for ancient Rome, we have the Curia Julia, which was the seat of politics there. So, okay, again, remember, you do not need to do all of these projects. You're going to be picking and choosing what works for you. Now, I'm going to have a link to our website down below and a link to some of the other tutorial type videos that we're putting up on our materials. And if you've enjoyed this, please be sure to press the like and share, subscribe to our channel. We're going to have a lot more videos as well, and we have some already on homeschool helps and simple projects to work on and even historical cooking in the kitchen. So thanks so much for joining me, and as always, keep your history hands-on. God bless.